Welcome to Uncopyable Women in Sales. If you're looking for actionable insights and real-world tools to turbocharge your sales starting tomorrow, well, you're in the right place. Your host, Kay Miller, earned the affectionate nickname Muffler Mama when she sold more automotive mufflers than anyone else in the world. In this podcast, Kay will talk to another superstar woman in sales as they reveal uncopyable strategies you can use to rack up more leads, snag dream clients, and take your sales numbers through the roof. Stay tuned and get ready to make more sales and how about this? More money.
I am here with Monica Neilson, and this is actually part 2 of a conversation that we had earlier, which was so fantastic that the 30 minutes just flew by and we missed some of the topics that I really wanted to cover. And so Monica is a realtor in the Outer East Bay of San Francisco. She started her real estate business at age 57. And in 7 years, she has consistently been in the top 10 to 15% of agents nationally. Monica, welcome back to the podcast.
Well, thanks, Kay. It's good to be here.
So again, you need to listen to part 1, but we're going to dive into a couple topics that I think will really help you as a listener to get inspired to achieve beyond what you've even imagined. Monica, you have always been a big goal setter. And how has that affected you? And just tell us about how your goals, how you set them and reach them.
Well, like we talked about in our first conversation, I was raised in a very goal-oriented, driven family. So I think I had it as a child, and it's just been the way life is. Obviously, to start this business at the age I was at, I had to have a certain goal to believe that I could do it and move forward. I will set goals based on, now that over the years that I have a business coach, my business coach helps me define my goals. And sometimes they're bigger than I want them to be for that quarter or that year or whatever. But that's part of having a coach, is then pushing you. But I also am a big believer in challenging yourself to do things that scare you. From starting this business to something we touched on a little bit, I set out a really big goal for myself in 2023, partly from listening to a podcast, but also partly because I wanted to do something that I knew was going to be hard, that would challenge me, would create the opportunity for personal growth, and see if how it affected me and my business. And that was, I gave up alcohol for 2023.
Alcohol free in 23, right? That was your mantra?
That was my mantra. Yeah. And being a sociology major, I was also interested in it because we live in a culture that's drenched in alcohol. And, being someone that, I drank regularly. I never really, alcohol's there, right? And of course I would be around people not drinking, but I never really thought about what it's like for them. And it's very different when you are navigating this world that we live in as a non-drinker. And there's been so much to it that I don't even know how to put into words, Kay, but the overall theme or overall result, I think, is that it has been so empowering. The fact that I have done something that I thought would be so hard for me, and that I'm, I guess 11 months into it, I feel like I can do anything. That may sound corny, but I really do. I feel like I can do anything I decide I want to. And that has been huge.
And it's not to say that you are, recommending this to other people. Everyone has their own, can make their own decision. I told you I did talk to one other very successful woman. I haven't interviewed her yet, but when I sent a questionnaire about, what has contributed to her success, she brought that up too. That being alcohol free has really opened a lot of doors. I thought it was interesting too. You stopped, I should say, you stopped drinking alcohol on December 29th. So it was a decision you made and you thought there's no time like the present. And now you're almost at 1 year. And you said you're not sure where it will go from here. But if I was betting, I would say I think you'll continue it. Maybe a little glass of wine here or there. You never know what will come up. But I think it's really interesting that has made you better and sharper and just changed your life in a lot of ways.
In so many ways that I never, ever thought would be a piece of them. And it's hard, people that know now ask about, well, what do you mean, Monica? And it's really hard to put into words. I think you have to experience it, but you do. How empowered I feel to face those limiting beliefs and do these things that you thought, oh, I can't do that, has been pretty terrific. And also, I deal with very difficult situations in a much calmer, clearer way. My job can have a lot of very difficult scenarios. People going through divorces, people dealing with death, people, it's very difficult at times. And the ability to manage all that has been better alcohol free. I don't know why. I wish I could explain that, but I can't. It just, I don't know if there's more clarity and empathy for others. I'm not sure, but it's a piece of it, and it's a very positive piece. So
And
I'm just going with it.
I think that's great. And, every time you do something really hard that you want to do, it does raise your self-esteem. I always think, what are you proud of? Are you proud of the things that just landed in your lap or that were easy for you? No, you're proud of the things that were hard. And so that was hard. And every day, I think that you can say, yeah, I'm alcohol free for another day. So that shows that you are disciplined in an area that's important to you. And like you said, it makes you better. I know that like a lot of people, you have family situations, with your parents, as I have had. So if you just have a clear head, then how much better you can be for everyone. So, I'm thankful that you're willing to share that. I know we talked a little bit about that. I personally am working on drinking less. And I like what I'm seeing already. We'll see if I have the discipline to go all the way. I don't know. And I'm not against drinking, but I do see that you can be your best. I just remembered I interviewed another realtor. Her name is Peggy Albers, and you might want to go back and listen to that episode.
Okay.
I think you've listened to some. She actually went to prison right after high school. She got into drugs. She started selling drugs and she got caught. And she had a 25-year prison sentence. And when she came out, I think she got out a little bit early. She had left a toddler, now had a 16-year-old, and she decided to go into real estate in the Lake of the Ozarks area. And she is like you. She's setting the world on fire. Now that adversity that she made it through has really helped her be more successful, but she has also decided that to be totally sober. And like you, she said it's been life-changing. So it's interesting. As I said, it's not for everyone. We're not telling you have to be sober, but it's something to consider. If you're listening, it's something that you might consider. And it's refreshing to hear what it's meant to you.
Today's podcast is sponsored by the acclaimed book, Uncopyable Sales Secrets: How to Create an Unfair Advantage and Outsell Your Competition by Kay Miller. If you want to make more sales, you need to read this book. We'll even get you started with a free download of the first 2 chapters. Go to uncopyablesales.com/chapters to grab this offer right now.
So let's get back to the real deal here.
Okay.
Your sales system that has made you so successful. $59 million, I think you sold in your career, right? Is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
That's a lot of
That was
real
a grad
estate.
60. So, yeah.
We talked
Would be a
about,
lot more in the Ozark area, of course.
I think you're right. Boy, the prices of those homes, second homes, yeah. And she is, of course, high end. She chooses the high end. And of course, if you have that ability to make that choice, that's what you do. We talked a lot about the dedication you have to your customers, the fact that you go above and beyond to really have a presence in the area that you've chosen. And I think that you do a lot of things right. But I want to ask you about negotiation, because I think that's something that women in particular are afraid of and maybe back off from. And you mentioned creative negotiation. So I'd like you to explain how you negotiate and what your perspective is on that.
Gosh, well, one of the things that I really love about the real estate transaction is there's a whole variety of ways to be creative within that transaction if you are knowledgeable enough and allowed to. Some brokers, depending upon your situation, you may not have earned that ability or just may not be allowed to, I guess is a good way to put it. But this is something that I find really intriguing about my industry, is that there really truly are a variety of ways that you can make a deal come together as long as all parties are willing. And for me, I love the art of the deal.
I love that. The art of the deal. I love that.
And I think for women, and this is something I've really had to learn, it's important to state your position and stop talking. And you and I are both talkers, I think.
That's right.
And it's a very difficult thing to learn. I've had to practice, but I think that's key, especially, and it doesn't have to be just the woman, but in any negotiation, most people generally can be nervous, and that will come out with talking too much. And I think that if you allow the other person, if you put something out there and allow the other person to just go with it, you find out a lot of things because their nervousness comes through. And I think it's important to, if you do come into roadblocks in a negotiation, and this is what I like about real estate. Okay, well, if we're not going to be able to say a credit for repairs on a house, if that's where everybody's stuck, well, what can we do within this deal to maybe still come to that final number for our seller and Mr. Buyer, but it's clearly not going to be in the repair? There are ways within that transaction to maybe make this work. But you have to be knowledgeable and skilled enough to figure out, well, and it might be in adjusting your commission. It might be, who knows? Obviously, I'm in business. I have a business to run. So you don't always want to be giving away your money. But sometimes you have to look forward at what's going to be best in this deal or in the future. Sometimes giving up a little bit, you can gain a whole lot down the line. I think it's really a matter of knowledge A lot of people that don't know how to move around within the realms of the transaction just aren't have the knowledge or the wherewithal to think about it. I recently, in fact, I have something closing this week that has been a challenging transaction. Going into too many details in case somebody listens, but involves divorce and a very contentious divorce. And, parties that don't speak to each other. And a buyer that, of course, wants the best deal possible. And trying to navigate the waters there so everybody wins has been a bit of a challenge. And we did come to a solution that works out for all. And it was creative. The buyer is actually, the home is going to record at a higher value than because the seller is giving the buyer what's considered a concession. But it appears, and we'll go on tax record, that it recorded at more of a reasonable value for that property, if that makes sense. Whereas the flip side, it could have just sold at that lower value and the buyer would still be getting their money, but it's not going to have the same effect on the values in the neighborhood or for my sellers at that lower value. Does that make sense?
It does. And it sounds like you are creative in making both parties feel like winners. And I'm wondering,
well, that's the goal.
That's the goal. And I'm wondering if your sociology degree ever helps you out in some way, because it is dealing with the psychology of people and how they think. You
Yes.
also mentioned that you think outside the box, which not every salesperson does, to really think about what the possibilities are that are not obvious. Things that, there are trade-offs.
I've had people that have really hit me hard about what my commission will be. They just feel that is way too much for them to pay me. And I've done sliding scales where, okay, Mr. Seller, how about this? If sell your house for X amount, you're only going to pay me Y amount. If I sell your house for Y amount, you're going to pay me this amount. And if I sell your house for this amount, you're going to pay me. And it's a total win-win. Each time I've done it, it has worked out to where I've been at this number. So I got what I was hoping to get and even more so. And my seller was super happy because they got more than they thought they were going to get. And even psychologically, I think the fact that you opened the door to work with them does a lot. Because most people aren't willing to do that. And I have to give a shout out to my broker. I have the flexibility and the trust from my broker to support that. Not everybody will. And once again, I think that athlete in me comes out in the sense that, man, I really want that,
You're competitive.
Yeah. And right now, like I have something, I have done this with staging quite often. Staging is when you may use like not the seller's furniture or artwork or whatever in a home to have it appeal to more people. Correct. And I think statistically, we can show that a staged home will sell up to 20% faster and for like 7% more. Up to, I can't say always. Very beneficial to the seller. But it can also be 3, 5, just depends how many thousands of dollars it might cost. I've done that often with staging. That, I'll write it into my listing agreement that we're going to stay to the house. I'll pay up front. But if the house sells for this amount, you're going to pay me this amount. If it sells for X amount, you're going to pay me for all of that. And like I said, it's a real positive because the people walk away with the feeling that you have more skin in the game and you're working with them. And they feel great because, wow, I'm not putting all that out and she's going to give me this. And it's just a super positive all the way around. And at the end of the day, that's the whole goal, right? Is to have a positive experience.
I love that saying that they feel like you have some skin in the game. It shows your level of confidence in taking some of that risk yourself. I talk in my book,
It doesn't
and I know
always work.
Right. Well, can't bet it.
But no. And it's those are the less, that's where we really learn too, is if you debrief and figure out, okay, what could I have done different? That's where you pick up the knowledge for the next time.
That's true. In fact, I think I mentioned I'm listening to my own podcast. I'm a new podcaster and I'm working at getting better. So I like to listen to my own podcast, and it's sometimes painful. We all don't think we sound that great. But
No.
I want to be better. And that is, it takes determination and having goals. I do talk about win-win early on in my book, and I know you just started my book, but I think that's so key. People don't want to feel like you're selling them on something. You're giving them the information, you're presenting, you're getting to know them, first of all, and presenting what will really benefit them. And of course, if you make the sale, that's so interesting, by the way, that you bring that up, that if you sell the house for more, they get more money and you get more money. So that is definitely a win-win. That's brilliant. The other thing that you touched on that I think is one of the biggest things for salespeople is silence. Like you said, we are talkers. Extroverts, I think, are even more drawn to sales than introverts, although introverts do have an advantage in that way. They don't talk and talk and talk. Listening is so important in sales. And I'm sure as a consumer like me, you've just been so turned off by salespeople who are just talking and on about what they're selling, and they're not trying to find out about me. So that is a really good important component. And then being silent and listening. And you've heard the saying, buying back the sale. They may have made the decision and you don't know it because you're still talking. If you give them the chance to really mull it over, even in a conversation, that can make the difference.
And it could be really hard for those of us that are talkers. I've had to, I have a little mantra in my head sometimes, don't talk, and I'll just tell myself to just wait and wait. And it is hard.
It's a discipline, but it's
definitely, it definitely is. What's that saying in sales? Remember there was always a saying, and like when you were negotiating your salary or something, he who gives the number first loses.
Right. And often, doing the most talking might lose too. Right. Yes, definitely. Don't start out by
talk yourself right out of the deal.
That's right. We don't want that. So
no.
I think that we've covered most of what we wanted to talk about. There's a couple extra topics. As I said before, it's not that you're old, because I'm older than you a little bit, but it is really refreshing for our listeners who might be older. There are so many possibilities ahead. And I happen to watch the show. I don't know if you watch this, Grace and Frankie. It's
yes.
Do you love that show? I have watched.
Hilarious.
I know. It's not only hilarious, but I love the way that deep down they really do love each other, and they get into all these fights and disagreements, and it's very comical. But underneath it all, they love each other. Well, Grace is played by Jane Fonda, who is, I think she's even older than 80. She's 85. She's
Mhm.
85 years old. And I've heard interviews with her, and she said, I don't want to quit. I love what I do. And so I think the ageism sometimes is something that we put on ourselves. And
I
we
think so
should
too.
stop because, number one, the age isn't what it used to be. And we're not Grandma Moses. I don't think she started till she was 80. But I just think it's great that you have started a little later in life and are so successful. The possibilities
Well,
are
thank you.
endless.
I really enjoy it. And it's funny because sometimes I feel like it's unfortunate I found my niche so late in life, but I think part of the success that I've had and loving it so much is all the experiences I had getting to this.
Right. And the not
They would,
change. I always, when I
yeah,
have a hard time making a decision, I realize it's a lot easier for me to think about what I don't like than what I do like. So you were in position
Mhm.
that I don't like that. I want something different. And it led you to really the perfect job, something that you love. Monica,
I do.
I think I will really end the podcast. I think we have covered a lot. There's probably more, but I have just found it fascinating to talk with you. I will mention one more thing about your brother, Kelly. He is in the book. And there is a story, and I'm not going to tell it. You have to buy the book, which you should buy the book, about the determination and perseverance and commitment that he shows to his customers. And he is also very, very successful. You do come from a very driven family that has a strong work ethic. In fact, I bought a car at Everett Mazda, and it's a cousin of yours. I can't remember his
Jerry,
name.
Jerry
Jerry.
McCann.
Jerry McCann. And one of his slogans is service sells the second car. Well, the Mazda I bought this spring was my second Mazda. And I didn't shop around. I didn't quibble on the price because I just really have confidence in him and his company. And he treats his employees so well. I saw him come into work. Like, he comes in later so he can stay later. And he greets every single employee when he gets there. And it reminds me of what you said about showing kindness to everyone. You never know where that will lead.
Yeah,
So
so true.
it's the right
Well,
thing
thank
to
you
do.
so much.
It could make you more successful. Again,
And it's free.
it's free.
It doesn't cost anything to be kind.
Kindness is free. I love that. That's a great point. And also,
Yeah.
giving the kindness is as rewarding or maybe more rewarding than receiving the kindness. So that's one of the things I think about. If I'm ever down, I think, what can I do for someone else? That really boosts your own attitude. I will remind people who have not listened to the first interview that I will put Monica's information or contact information in the show notes and a little bit more of her bio, which, as you know, or as you heard on the first episode especially, is fascinating. So if you, by chance, are in the outer East Bay area of San Francisco, you're interested in buying or selling, you have got to get hold of Monica. You will be all the better for that experience. Monica, thanks again for not only recording a podcast with me, but for recording part 2. You've given us so much wisdom. I'm very, very grateful.
Well, thank you, Kay. It's been really fun. A true pleasure to get to know you and to be here with you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Uncopyable Women in Sales, your source for secrets you can use to make more sales. Check the show notes for links and contact information. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please spread the word by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. You can always learn more by going to uncopyablesales.com/podcast. Until next time, go out and supercharge your sales like a true uncopyable rock star.